Hey, this is Gilly Woodhouse on the Osteobusiness podcast, talking all things osteobusiness. Here's Gilly Woodhouse, an author, speaker, award-winning business coach, and passionate advocate of osteopathy.
Hello, so today I'm very delighted to have Jim Ruddick back in my room. We work together as part of Osteobiz, and Jim's also the owner of a large osteopathic practice in Oxfordshire, second generation.
That's right, Summertime Clinic. Hello, everyone. Hello, Gilly. Thanks for having me on again. It's a delight to be here and
Yeah.
to talk to you about all these things that are happening in the wonderful world of osteopathy.
Yes. Well, today we're going to focus on AI.
Yeah, this is my thing at the moment. I've been over the last 18 months twiddling around and playing with AI, and I've tried to pull it all together into a course which I'm launching in January. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
A free course, by the way, to try and help promote AI in the profession and get us all innovating and up to speed with how AI can help us. And off the back of that, I'm going to be trying to run some courses as something called co-practice. Um, and that's also kicking off at the same time. So people can enjoy the freebie, but there'll be sort of subscription stuff behind it where they can get really into the nitty-gritty of the AI or how I use AI and some of the tools that I've been creating, and like some sort of man in his shed with all the tools around. That's the sort of stuff I've been doing for the last 18 months,
Been tinkering
trying to
down the
create these.
shed.
Yeah, and actually, I've been really. It's been lovely. It's been quite a nice iterative process from where I feel like I'm growing up with AI a little bit. Sort of where we started and where AI was. It was quite difficult to use, and now it's becoming easier and easier, and I find I can do more and more with it. So
Mm.
I'm delighted to share this with everybody in osteopathy because I think it's going to change the way we work and give us even more time to be the osteopaths that we want to be, rather than document writers and social media gurus and all the other things that we're trying to be, which is very difficult. As a
Yeah.
big clinic owner, like you said, juggling all those different balls is
Gosh, yeah.
not what I was trained for, and very tricky. And it's only with help like yours that I've managed to kind of keep everything going as well as it is, which is nice. So thanks for that. I've been part of your Osteobiz group now for, must be well over 6 years, 7 years, I'd
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah,
Gosh,
it's
yeah.
nice to have had that support. And that's a little bit of what I'm trying to hope to offer the osteopaths coming forward into AI as well, is that sort of support and just a place, a community where we can share AI ideas, and then people who are interested we can focus on that together as well.
Yeah. Which is great because I know from my experience of like 12 years now, over 12, um, that the vast majority of clients will come to me and say, now, Gilly, I'm a technophobe, or I'm a dinosaur, or don't you dare wrestle my diary and pencil off me.
There's a lot of that in the profession.
Yeah. Luddite's
And
the other one I get.
yeah, well, that's fine. But I mean, one of the things that AI has done, and actually the kind of model, the large language model, the LLMs behind AI have been around for a long time. It's just ChatGPT was one of the first that decided just to make it a really clear user interface where they just put a box on the window that says type your message here, and then it starts kind of conversationally chatting to you. And so it's not actually kind of really new tech. It's something that's been around a long time. And so for the Luddites and the people who are technophobes, it's an opportunity to have a much more human interaction with your computer than ever before, really. I say with your computer, with the computers that live in the American servers generally. Um, and so it should be an easier progression for people, but there's a hierarchy to it. So you don't start by saying, right, help me diagnose this patient. You need to start with the basic, simple things. And we try and cover that in the course in terms of like a confidence ladder, where we start at the bottom of doing some of the basic tasks where it's rearranging the consent and or sorry, not the consent, the documents and the things that you are putting into it. So all it's doing is organizing your material to it producing material for your consumption or your patient's consumption, which is the top rung and the most dangerous sort of position to be in. So yeah, so that kind of confidence thing is really important. And I think you do this actually really well with Osteobiz, where you get people just to do a little video or a challenge of just getting into it and dipping their toe in, and then suddenly they realize, oh, it's not actually that bad. I
Yeah,
could do this. And
I
I think
know.
it's very similar in AI.
Oh, that's good to know because that's what I see time and time again is, that it's often the same process of, oh no, I can't put my face out there. And I'm like, but they're going to see it when they come in anyway. So it'd be really helpful if they got to know, like, and trust you before they came in. Um, and yeah, exactly that, that once they find they didn't die and nothing terrible happened and it
Yeah.
worked, those new patients started to trot in, that you can embrace something new that until then had felt really quite scary.
Hmm.
And like you say, if you think of it as a ladder and you can start with the first rung, you're not too far off the floor. Let's just try this out and see
That's right.
if
This
it's
is
helpful.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
move on up. And I think that's a good way to think about it actually, because I've been using it myself for a couple of years and playing around. And initially, it didn't know what osteopathy was. It was hopeless, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh gosh, it wasn't. This isn't going to be helpful to me. And then it learned really fast,
Yeah.
and now it completely understands. And I can rip out all kinds of things from it. I'll say, I've got an idea about this, can you kind of formulate what would that look like, or how could I? And the next thing I know, I've got an entire thing that sounds like me, looks like me, and it is something I can then say, right, am I going to put this out into the world, or do I want to tweak it, or whatever? But it's done the hard work of the scratchy beard phase where you're like, oh, shall I? No, what could it be? 27 modules, or could it be three? Or it's
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of, you can say, all right, simplify that, or all right, take that up another level. What could that look like if I made it even more amazing? What could I add in? And if you give it good prompts and questions, it's going to give you good stuff back. And the most incredible thing, even after a couple of years, is I'm still staggered by how fast it is. And you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, it
before you think,
processes it so
yeah,
quickly.
you you banged return on the typewriter. Oh, show my age. Laptop, and boom, it's replied, and and you go, well, that's good. Like, it's not even coming back with something way off mark. It's extraordinary.
It
So
is, and it's quite like social media in that some of the social media stuff helps us get in front of hundreds, potentially thousands of patients in a way that before that we would have had to have gone and talked to everybody in a town hall or, gone door to door with cards or I don't
honestly,
know how we used to do it, and
no,
now we can do that in minutes, a matter of minutes to put together a nice image and post something to our audience or a sort of further reaching audience. And it's there's quite a lot of similarity there with the time saving that you can get through using social media.
yeah,
And also when if you start using social media, I kind of got back into it recently because I was off it for a while, but got back into it recently, and I found that I have to be really careful not to get dragged into all the conversations and stories. And
yeah,
it's like that with AI. If you're not careful, it can drag you into places that you weren't expecting to go to begin with, and that use up quite a lot of time. This is basically me telling you what I've been up to for the last 18 months,
yes,
because
been
you start,
stuck
oh,
down there.
that's a really good idea. I'll carry on with that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a good point to make actually, because I don't know what I was creating now, but it said, "Shall I make you a PDF for that?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then, "Oh, I can make a quick crib sheet." And I'm okay. And then it said, "Would you like me to make some, PowerPoint slides for that now?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then suddenly I'd got all this stuff
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
result of one idea that I wanted to explore, and I kind of went, oh, I've gone into overwhelm now because now I've
Yeah.
got. Then I was like, I'll print that and I'll print that, and I got a stack of paper. And I was like, no, 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 I shouldn't be doing this. But it was like it created some great stuff, but I had too much stuff, and I
Mm,
think I've learned now to say no. Well, no, thank you, because we're still very terribly polite in this country.
that's right.
Uh,
Just in case they turn into Terminators and kill
yeah,
everyone who wasn't polite.
you never said thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I now like I will leave it and go. That is enough. I've got my crib sheet and I've got my PDF. That's all I want. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it can you can end up going so far down the rabbit hole you forget what your original question was.
yeah, which can be a good thing if you've got the time for that, but otherwise it can be quite difficult. And I found social media is a little bit like that too. You can end up spending loads of time on it, and actually, if you just sat down and did the project that you came there with initially, you probably get it done in an hour. Doing I
Yeah.
don't know, a week's worth of Facebook posts or
Quite strict
something.
with myself on that as well now. It's like because I'm known for being all over social media, but I actually am not on it a huge amount, and
Mm.
I'm not a scroller.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's right. Doom scrolling they call it, don't they?
oh yeah, no,
This,
I see my husband doing it. I'm like, stop it.
yeah,
Because he says,
yeah.
then he starts shopping. Oh, stop it, stop it. But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you touched on a few things that I've got in this course. So there's this kind of idea of creating a structure around prompting so that you don't have too long a reply.
yeah,
So I use something called the CLEAR framework, where C is for context and L is for length. And so I won't give away everything in the CLEAR because otherwise my course will be gone. But the length is really important. So giving it some sort of indicator about where you want that bit of output to go is quite important. So you keep it brief, or you make it a page, or something like that. And actually, interestingly, you were talking about your voice as well. I've played around with this a little bit. So it all started when I was doing a club handbook for my football club, and I asked it to change it into the voice of Ted Lasso, and I was in hysterics. It was so good. And then I thought, what else can it do? So I thought, well, I'll try Gilly. So I had yeah, it's got your voice pretty well. So I mean, I'd imagine it's got that from your website and the stuff you've posted.
yeah.
But I thought it was really good. It sounded just like really lovely, kind, and sort of caring and compassionate type of voice that it put into. Um, I can't remember what I was using, some sort of social, or maybe it was newsletter I was trying to write. But I was like, oh, that sounds brilliant.
Amazing, I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. You should,
Oh,
well, I
oh,
mean, you obviously
yeah,
don't need to give it a go because it's your
no.
voice. But yeah.
Just one off to Barbados then and leave it to carry on.
Yeah, well, that's the danger actually, is that you begin to rely too heavily on it. And
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people will go wrong with AI. They forget that really it's a very basic, the tool itself is actually just a predictive bit of software. So all it is doing, it's like autocomplete on steroids. It's just literally guessing what the next word is in a sentence. So it has no kind of ability to be intelligent or to understand what you're talking about. It's literally taking all the stuff that it's ever read of the millions of articles on the internet and books and all this sort of stuff, and it's predicting what the next word is going to be in that sentence, and then comparing that to what the whole sentence might be, and then looking for matches in terms of context. And that's how it does it. So
Oh,
there isn't
really?
like a brain or a or something like incredibly intelligent going on in the background. It's literally just a parrot, but it's parroting back from millions of bits of data, which is obviously the clever bit. Um,
Just not going to
but
do
yeah,
my
so
dusting then, Jim.
no, it's not going to be doing your dusting, and it's not going to take over the ability to palpate or to, treat your patients or, have a good conversation like this. That sort of human aspect is going to remain for, well, hopefully forever, but it'll get better at mimicking it, of course, and creating that illusion that it's intelligent and that it's your best friend and your associate or your admin assistant or whatever. It'll do a good job
Agony aunt.
yeah.
Some
I
people
think,
use it for that already.
yeah, I read somewhere in the Times, I think it was, that something like 47% of the UK's population has used ChatGPT for its to direct it, their financial like an IFA basically for financial
Wow.
advice,
Yeah,
which is amazing, when you consider how many millions of people that is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those types of jobs where in the past it's been, um, sort of a conversational, well, they're obviously regulated as well, so there's professional kind of stuff behind it, but there isn't that hands-on or human contact necessary. And I think those kind of jobs will become harder to earn a lot of money. If I got to pay £1,000 to get advice about where to put my money for shares and things, and ChatGPT could do a similar job of guiding me, then you'd imagine you could shorten the time that you spend with your IFA. Actually, this year I did all my accounts by AI myself. So I use Claude actually. I like Claude a lot. It seems to, I don't know, seems to be a bit more on the level and less conversational. And so I thought, oh, if I put in my accounts from last year as an example, and I then just use my statements and I put those statements into it, see what it does. And so after about 2 hours, I'd iterated this skill, and I've now got an accountancy skill that I can use in Claude, and I can upload my next lot of statements, and it should just like churn out the accounts that I need. It does make me
fantastic.
think, oh, I wonder if I need my accountant at all. But of course you do, because you still need a human in the loop, somebody to verify that what you're doing and what it's producing is accurate. But some of
Yeah,
that I could probably manage myself. So again, are there clever accountants out there who are pivoting and innovating with AI and thinking, well, I instead of seeing 100 clients, I could see 1,000 or 10,000 clients, and charge them, a fraction of what I charge them now to make it competitive, but still make a lot of money at the end of it by giving them a quality bit of service, which is more about advice and the human in the loop, which is really what osteopaths are. We are the humans in the therapy loop.
yeah.
So yeah, exciting times.
So, AI itself in clinic, um, a lot people we're working with in particular are already using AI to take their patient notes, and it's incredibly accurate. And whilst they're finding that they need to slightly change the way they talk just to make sure that the software's picked up that it's the anterior, blah blah, whatever. I can't even give you a decent example.
Oh
My
no, but I know what you're going to say. Yeah, yeah. This was
pseudo
this was on.
osteohead. Yeah, but it's so if the patient says the pain's on my knee here, then the practitioner will just confirm. Oh, it's you
On
know
your left knee at the
left knee.
front. Yeah.
Front, that's right. And then the AI will put that down in medicalese correctly for you for your
Yeah.
notes, which I think is phenomenal. Um, and so that, we're already using that with clients at the moment and finding it's really, really helpful. And it does help to keep your engagement with the patient at an even higher level because you're not needing to scribble anything down or type or whatever. So that strengthens the process and the contact between the two of you in that moment, which I think is great because I know
Yeah.
some
I mean,
people
so
find that's a
in
problem.
practice, oh, sorry, Gilly, what were you saying?
Oh, no, I
Sorry.
was just going to say some people find that a problem of, not wanting to have the head down typing when they're not be engaging with the patient, etc. So this circumvents that completely. Plus, you're ending up with a load of notes which make sense, are accurate. You can just whiz through and check that that is correct as to what was said. And
Yeah.
what I particularly like is that it doesn't mention their holiday in Spain that they were babbling on about. It completely wipes that out, was irrelevant, and it just focuses on the bits that are relevant. But like I say, you can check before you click. Yes, save that.
Oh,
And it's
it's
not good.
brilliant.
Yeah.
I use Heidi AI. I think there's another one called Tandem as well, but they're the two that are most well recognized in the healthcare field at the moment. And Heidi has the GDPR kind of consensus. It works with the NHS, so it has everything in place that makes it very safe as well. And that's an important sort of feature of it. I originally started using it, so we're talking about that confidence ladder. I started using it a little bit like a clinic tutor to start with. So I'd write notes while I was in the room, and then when the patient had left, I would transcribe my assessment and my treatment. So I would say, oh yeah, right shoulder flexion to 90 degrees, abduction, and talk about it like that. And it would record that and then put that into the notes for me. And then I started using it across the whole session. And it's got better and better at that. So I think just 2 or 3 months ago, Heidi released a personalization mode where now when you go into the notes and you change things, it remembers what you changed. And so, for instance, it used to pick up, I used to say foraminal gapping, and it would say, uh, you know, pretty much anything that sounds similar. And that really, so I used to go along and then cross it out and put in foraminal gapping or whatever it might be. And now it recognizes it, so it puts it in correctly. And it's beginning to learn that structure of how I like my notes to be as well.
Yeah.
I use the free package. So this was actually on the Facebook group that we set up called AI for Manual Therapists. Just recently we were talking about it, and a couple of people found that it wasn't that helpful. That they found that the what it was producing was quite mixed, and I haven't found that. That may well be to do with microphone setup. So if you set the microphone up on your desk and then you go and talk to somebody on the far side of
Mm.
the room, it may not pick some stuff up. It may be something to do with your communication and the way you communicate with your patients. So perhaps you think you're getting everything across, but you may not be saying it. You may be, like you were saying, pointing at the thing or the knee rather. So it can't then fill that gap for you.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I think it's trying hard to do all those things. Interestingly enough, I noticed that I think it's Google has released an AI sort of image translator that will turn an image into like a movement pattern. So a video, so it'll be able to you'll be able to video your patients very soon, and it will look at the way that the arm or shoulder is moving and be able to record that for you. And I'm really excited about that because I think that's the next level for me as an osteopath, is
Mm.
rather than writing my assessments and approximating 90 degrees or 120 degrees, I'll actually be able to have a measure that's as accurate as a goniometer. So that's the sort of angulated ruler thing that often physios use to measure angles. Us osteopaths tend to do it more by eye, but it's not as accurate. In fact, it's one of the reasons that physios are doing much better with AI than osteopaths because they have a lot more data that is really rich in exact measurements rather than our slightly fanciful ways of measuring things, and we tend to be a little bit more subjective with our examinations. So yes, so it's exciting because all of these sort of aspects will come in, quite soon.
Yeah.
I've got a few projects I'm working on, but I can't tell you about them. But
I'll
they
drag
are
you back
along this
in.
line. It's really, I mean, it's really amazing what it could be doing. Oh,
Yeah.
I feel a
Oh,
teaser coming on, but I can't.
oh,
I can't.
oh,
I've
Jim.
got to be quiet. Yes, sorry.
Definitely be dragging you back in here for more.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to come back and tell you all about the news of the AI world and how it's going to change our futures as osteopaths. I mean, I know there are a lot of people say, "Oh, it won't change the future. It's no good anyway." But it's really doing it. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about the AI being like improving in terms of its intelligence, if we want to call it that.
Mm.
And I went to a healthcare conference where they showed the I think it's called the GMAT score, which is basically a sort of university entrance exam for undergraduates or I think it is anyway, undergraduates who come into university. So they look at basically this sort of score across different institutions to describe how intelligent their population is or how intelligent you need to be to gain access to the institution. And it showed ChatGPT against their entrance criteria, and like each
Mm.
version of ChatGPT was getting like better and better, and would potentially be accepted to more and more universities. And now, with in the latest iteration, ChatGPT is well beyond Harvard, the average Harvard graduate, graduate, and I found that graph really interesting. I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. You can sort of see how it's evolving. And
Yeah.
so even as we speak now, this podcast will probably be relatively irrelevant in 3 months or 6 months' time when Google, ChatGPT and Claude are all fighting off, and Perplexity and DeepSeek and other LLMs are fighting it off to try and take the market because it's huge.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the other thing that came up on the group actually was about the environmental destruction of these sorts of things, and that was quite an interesting topic because building them is actually really quite resource intensive, but the process of using them isn't as bad. So because you have to train, um, so GPT is generative pre-trained transformer. So the pre-training of these transformers, so the bringing in of all that content makes it the LLM, the large language model.
Hmm.
And so that process of bringing in all that content takes up a lot of energy. But when you type in a search, for instance, it uses up about somewhere between zero point 0.3 and 3 watt hours of energy, which is the same as having your laptop on for a minute. Or if you watch a video, a brief video on YouTube or a short reel on Facebook, you're using up way more energy than you'd be using up if you typed in a ChatGPT prompt. So there is some environmental impact, and it's of course exponentially huge because there are millions and billions of these sort of terms going into it every day, but it's not quite as bad as I think some people think.
That's helpful to know that, actually, Jim. Um, and so what do you think? Where do you think this is going in clinic generally? We've just talked about how it can transcribe your notes, and then maybe forward on information to the patient or to write that to the GP to let them know what's happening, etc. You can save a whole bunch of time around that. But what other things are you using it for, or where do you see it going in clinic to save more time?
Um, I think I mean, it's already started getting into, and I'm sure you've seen this, the marketing world. So creating social media blogs and posts and things in scheduled order and basically images and text almost instantly and video as well. So there's that kind of social media marketing kind of platform that I think it's going to be sort of going to take that marketplace first. I think that's where I'm really interested because I'm more on the clinical side. I'm not particularly interested in that, and so I find that it's really good for reflective practice. So one thing I do at the moment is I go walking with a dog every day, and I take my phone and I chat to my personal GPT. And so I'm going to be sharing this with some of my co-practice people that I've been working with this GPT for a while and sort of getting it better and better. And what it does essentially is it's my mentor and supervisor. So I walk around the block with my dog, but I'm
Yeah.
chatting about the day and reflecting on it. And it prompts me with questions. So it says, "Well, how did that make you feel? And what could you have done next time?" Or it begins to develop themes from our conversation. So it's usually a 20-minute conversation, and it pulls together those themes. And then at the end of the week, it produces like a little list of the things that I could work on if I wanted to. And then it could even source, I could then find out more about, I don't know, empathy with some patient or other, or, it's been really good. And because it's housed within the kind of AI, I don't feel judged in a way that I might if I was talking to my colleagues or an associate. And I find that really useful.
Actually, yeah, that's the
Um,
point, Jim, because it's not we would be thinking, what are they thinking about the fact that I was unsure about my diagnosis in this case? Oh,
yeah,
rubbish, osteopath. What do you think you're doing? And blah, blah, blah. Whereas,
yeah,
yes, that's a really good point that it's not judging you. It's just going, well, you might like to, bone up on this part of your practice, or, maybe you need a CPD course on some such and such.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, that's easier to take, isn't it? Than
Definitely. And in fact, that came out of something else that I was doing, which was I was beginning to use the transcriptions from Heidi and I was putting them together and I was asking Claude to obviously it's anonymized. So one of the other things I built is a clinical anonymizer that goes through anything that I want it to and anonymizes everything. So it takes out all the data that might not be appropriate. But anyway, with that transcription, I put that back into Claude with a prompt that I've developed about communication and consent. And it goes through and it pulls apart my transcriptions, tells me what I've done really well with, and then what I need to do better with, and even gives me like little sentence prompts that I could use next time I see a patient. So it might be, oh, you've asked for consent after you've started that process. You shouldn't do that. Montgomery judgment, blah, blah, blah. And it feeds the source back to me. And then from that, I can reflect on, oh, yeah, I need to be better in that way. Or you can say, oh, I'm going to ignore that because I think it's wrong. You're welcome to kind of critique it back. But it has been really, really insightful in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I think it's a genuinely powerful tool. That all came out of a Stephen Vogel course I did on communication and consent. And you can see the way that, again, how even in little demos that we were doing as groups, I felt, oh, I've got to be careful about how I present my critique of what that person just said, or what are they thinking about how I've just presented, how I would treat that patient. And all those sort of negativity gets completely gone.
Thoughts, yeah.
Yeah, you're sort of second guessing, like you were saying, and you don't need to do that with an AI model because it has no judgment of you. It's just giving you the reflection, the patterns that it's recognizing what you're saying. So I think it's really powerful for that. I mean, in the long term, I think that we'll have AI as part of practice I think it's going to change everything. So, I think the way we interact with computers at the moment through typing and keyboards will change. I think, essentially computing will just be a completely different world. So I would imagine we'll have a conversation much like we're having now, and there'll be an AI in the background that's recording, monitoring, delivering me some information and data that'll be verified and sourced correctly. There won't be any of these hallucinations. There'll be monitors in the room, so videos that will describe and look at the movements. It will rely on my judgment to pick up on certain key things, but it will take more and more. I mean, it won't do this for a long time, but it will begin to take more and more of that clinical sort of assistantship and allow me to get on with being an osteopath much more in the future. And that's the danger, really, is that it doesn't encroach on what I do. So I've, very boundaried in the way that AI should be used. But going forward, I can see that it's going to get better and better, and that there will be a time. I mean, already radiology, for instance, that they're doing kind of chest X-rays, and they're noticing on the chest X-ray that the AI can see stuff that's undetectable to the human eye. So things like an aortic stenosis or type 2 diabetes. I mean, it can even tell how wealthy you are by having a chest X-ray. It can give you a socioeconomic kind of perspective of how wealthy you are, which I think is incredible. But that data that comes back to the radiologist then has to be verified and assessed. And it's at that point where it's coming up with things that are possible, but as a radiologist they can't see. So are they allowed to then tell the patient or not? So they're in a catch-22, and I think that's really interesting and will be an ethical sort of conundrum that will roll on for a little while. But I'm sure that soon enough, the GPT sort of LLM model will begin to take the place of diagnosticians to some extent at least, and give us, like I think we'll be using triage forms and things like that, whereby we send something off to patients and they fill it in, and then it's looked at before the patient arrives, and we get a summary of what they've been dealing with. And in fact, sorry, I'm rambling on here, but I've already started working a little bit with the idea of wearable tech. So, these Whoop devices and Garmin's and Apple Watches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea that patients could upload their data as well as a triage form. So sort of like, what's the problem and, how are you feeling at the moment and all the rest of it. And it would pull that data in as well as our data, and it would create a sort of overall summary of the patient before you've even seen them. So you'd have a much clearer sort of physiological perspective on them than ever before.
You could potentially have data from the past month, for instance, to see what's going on with BP and heart rate and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
to see if there's been any patterns there or anything going on that you want to investigate or
Yeah.
ask further questions about.
So I was on this course, and there was a guy who was doing that for alcoholism. He was a psychiatrist, and he'd created an online course that was linked to alcoholism. And he was starting to use the wearable data to define the points at which people would be weakest and want to drink, and then alert them before that happened. So he would watch them getting more stressed and their heart rate and things changing, and how sleepy and tired they were, and it would start pinging them to say, right, you need to get to bed, don't have a drink, whatever you do,
Oh,
that type of thing. So, I think that's really exciting. And one of the guys in my practice, Joel, he's been working with a big company in America to identify sort of certain facial features and signs that the AI can detect that you could use on your phone to detect whether or not somebody had concussion or signs of concussion. So imagine being a pitch side football coach and being able just to snap a photo or a small video of your player, and then it will give you a sort of a rating, which would be far more accurate, or is likely to be far more accurate than kind of the 8 questions that is currently meant to be asked by coaches. Um, so yeah, those sorts of things are coming, and that's the exciting part of what will be changing in our in a really short time. I'd imagine in literally this time in 3 years, our way of practicing will be almost like unrecognizable to a practitioner now. If we got shot up shot up into 3 years time in Gilly's special time machine, we'd have a look and go, oh wow, that is so cool. Yeah, great idea. And I'm sure there'll be errors on the way, and that's partly what my course is about, really, is trying to prevent people making mistakes and errors within AI so that we can like build a literacy around it. That means that we're not going to be sharing patient details online in a way that because it lures you into this false sort of sense of security, and so being very aware of those boundaries, I think, is really important. And something that seems to be recognized in all the literature that I was reading as well is about AI literacy and where do we get it from, and that's where I thought there was a niche in the kind of courses and online material that there was available for us osteopaths, which is where this has all come from. But yeah, exciting times, and watch this space. I'd love to come back and chat to you all about the developments that are going on.
Yes, and I will definitely get a date in the diary to do that again because this is all moving at such a speed that, like you said, this podcast will be irrelevant in 3 months' time, probably.
Yeah, that's right. So everyone's got to
All
listen to this
day.
now.
Yeah.
We've got to market it right. Listen to this now. It will be irrelevant, but
Yeah.
it's not at the moment.
Oh dear. Um, oh, amazing. So, tell us a bit more about co-practice, Jim.
So co-practice is going to be a subscription process where people can join and become members of a really enlightening group where we'll deep dive into different things each month that will revolutionize their practices. So there's a tool I've been using recently called Notebook LM, for example. So one month we might look at how we use Notebook LM and create patient education resources, which are like the most amazing thing ever. I mean, I've been using it for about 3 months now, and they are mind-blowingly good. So I've got a whole series of podcasts off the back of it. I've given patient education leaflets and information that is all recognized as being the best data from the last 10 years and really, really kind of accurate stuff. I mean, it's brilliant. So that would be an example. The next month, we might then choose a different. We might look at transcription software and Heidi AI and how to get the most out of that. And
Mhm.
so the idea is that we follow this path, and each iteration and movement through the course of the curriculum, we'll find that we get kind of more and more advanced in how we're using AI in practice. Obviously, my fundamental reason for doing all of this is that I'm a practicing osteopath, and I really want other osteopaths to share their ideas as well, and for us all to move forward together. So I'm by no means thinking that I'm a guru in any of this, because I'm not. I'm just a very eager geek.
Yeah, you are. You've always been an eager
Thank
geek.
you, Julie. I take that as a compliment. Um, And so, I'm hoping that both very AI literate people and people who are complete novices to AI will join the group, and we'll be able to kind of pull everyone together and share ideas um, and watch the profession grow. I think it's really important for the profession actually to grow with this rather than grow against it. And
Yeah.
historically, we've not been great at change as a profession, I don't think.
Mm.
So it'll be interesting to see how we adapt and move forward. It'd be a shame if it felt like you would see the osteopath, becoming more and more um, less sort of involved in what people expect healthcare professionals to be like. Um, so I'm hoping to encourage people along there. So the membership process will be that membership will be £39 a month, for instance, across the first year is what I'm trying to price it at. Obviously, there's a cost to me because I have to put all this stuff together. I've got to subscribe to all these courses and keep up to date with everything. Um, so that's part of the reason for a cost. And then for early adopters, there's just a much cheaper membership of £19, I think it is, off the top of my head. And that's really because I'm hoping that they'll be my beta testers. So they'll come in and look at what we're doing in the module and give me some feedback about what we're doing. So I'm going to use and abuse them. Um, but they'll get first access to everything as well. So hopefully that will make it very worthwhile for them. And yeah, my initial goal is to get osteopaths in the UK up to speed and then look to see whether physios and chiropractors want this type of thing in their realm as well, potentially expand into them. And of course, the rest of the world is in the same boat. Everybody is getting to grips with AI. So there's no reason that if you're listening to this in New Zealand or Australia, give me a shout because I would love to try and help you as well and help those populations of osteopaths too. And other manual therapists. I mean, I really feel very optimistic about this. So I know that a lot of people are like, oh, AI, it's going to take over our jobs and everything. I really think that osteopaths and other manual therapists, particularly, are going to have a renaissance in that people are looking for that human touch, the human
Yeah.
contact that we offer, the actual therapeutic kind of value of what we do is going to be augmented by having an AI running all this other stuff in the background
That's
rather
how I
than,
feel. Yeah, it's augmenting you. It's not, it's not affecting your likelihood of growing your practice or anything else. It's just it's going to help you. And we know there's a lot of people out there in pain, and they're on huge waiting lists in this country in particular with the NHS, and so that there's massive demand for
mm,
osteopathy and manual therapy generally. And if this can augment what you're doing and time save for you, you'll be able to help even more people. I think that's the way to look at it from my perspective anyway, is that it's going to help you to help more people because it's going to make you really, really efficient.
yeah. Yeah, it is. There are angles, of course, still. The skepticism around AI tends to come from things like, I did a little survey on this, and it seems to be that people are concerned about the accuracy of it. Um, because of hallucinations and issues they've had, particularly in the first models of AI, but it's still very relevant. In fact, I had a brilliant one of a picture of a Moroccan town that had been decimated in an earthquake that my parents sent me saying, oh, we went to this and found it fascinating, but we can't remember where it was. So I thought, oh, I'll chuck into ChatGPT and find out. So I threw in this picture of this.
Knows?
I mean, what's that? Sorry?
Bob knows where this is.
Yeah, that's right. And it said Northampton city centre. I almost fell off my chair.
Different terrain, I think.
Yeah, that's right. I thought, well, I haven't been there for a long time, but I'm sure it doesn't look like that. And
Right.
so I said, are you sure? And it said, no, it's Morocco, and gave me the exact location. But that sort of hallucination is not uncommon, not really that uncommon. And of course, it leads to people's anxiety about, well, if it can make that mistake on something like that, then, if I ask it for some help diagnosing this tricky, complex patient, then is it going to be any good? Um, but that is why we have to be careful with it and know how to verify it properly. And that's where the course is really. It's all
Yeah,
about,
use common sense at the end of the day. Just question things like that. You went, are you sure?
yeah, 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 yeah,
So you're still using your common sense and your experience and knowledge, etc. But I mean, I just think, for instance, often there's questions in the osteopathy works group saying, "I've got this complicated case, blah blah blah. Here's a case history. What do you think?" And everyone's going, "Oh, have you thought about the I don't know, left nodule? I have no idea. I read these posts and I don't know what I just read." But I think it's fascinating, and I love that there's that sharing going on, and that that sort of asking for other ideas. But it may be that that's where um, the AI can be helpful in the have you thought of this, or have you explored that, or um,
Yeah,
could it
yeah,
be that
definitely.
12 is low, or whatever, it might just throw up some idea. It's about ideas, isn't it? Like, oh, it couldn't possibly be that because of that. Oh, but it might be, and I'll get them a blood test, or whatever it is. That I think it's just it's it that is it. It's augmenting what you do and just being uh it's like your little sidekick, isn't it? Isn't yours called Eleanor, by the way, Jim?
Oh, yes, I've told you too much. Yeah, that's right. Eleanor's my GPT. So she has got some sort of when I built her, I think it was ELENA stood for something.
Eleanor.
Um, but
Yeah.
I've just got so used to calling her Eleanor now that
Yeah.
she doesn't have to be a she either. I just find obviously chatting away to empathetic female voice is easier than some hard-nosed, American male voice. So
Yeah, exactly. Now, what was fascinating was when you played her, he gave us an example when we were on a course here, and she had such a lovely voice and a lovely way about her. I was like, I could go for coffee with her. She's great. It's fun.
yeah,
Really
yeah.
liked her. Whereas some of those, they do sound a bit odd, and you just think they don't sound quite right, or they sound a bit stilted. But she was just like your friend. It's
Yeah,
incredible,
that's yeah.
that's
It's
incredible.
really clever, isn't it, how they do that? One other little story about that is that from that, I had a really elderly patient who was feeling quite depressed and lonely at home, and she was feeling really quite isolated. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I could get a GPT that would work for her, that would be that kind of chatty companion. And so I started looking into it and started kind of formulating. And then I went on this conference, and by doing that, I'm actually manufacturing a medical device. So you have to be really careful with the regulations because if I'd given that to her, I'm actually giving her probably a class two or class three medical device, which is, up there with, I don't know, CPR equipment and, all sorts of things, which sounds ridiculous because
Yeah,
it's behind good intention. There's a good intention behind it, but actually it's to do with what that AI device is being asked to do. So she could ask it, for instance, oh, should I see the osteopath because I'm feeling a bit dizzy? And when it gives its opinion back, that opinion is giving her a medical sort of rationale and a medical um, diagnosis, which it's not allowed to do. And because I've given it to her, would mean that I had the liability for that. So say it said, um, "Yeah, book an appointment in 2 weeks time or something," and then she was actually having a stroke,
yeah.
then the liability rests with me as the manufacturer, in inverted commas, of,
Mm.
of that device. So really interesting because that's a great example of how regulation and the sort of hidden part of regulation of healthcare professionals, particularly, needs to be better understood, I think, moving forward, because I almost fell into that trap.
Yeah, with all good intention. But yeah, I suppose
I mean,
that's
wouldn't it be amazing? She could chat away to this thing, and it could say, "Oh, there's a sort of young people's lunchtime thing. Why don't you go to that? Or you enjoy knitting, so there's a knitting circle at Tuesday so would you like to book in?" And so from having an AI that could help her find those social niches, it could prevent all sorts of things related to her feeling isolated and depressed at home. So
yeah.
yeah, but obviously I can't do that. So they are looking at things like that. So I think there's a couple of bits of software that have been sold. I think there's one to the Cornwall NHS for over £1 million, which is basically the same concept, but looking at patients who are depressed. I mean, interestingly, that one brought up another issue, which was that because it was AI front facing, they decided that anything that looked like self harm or suicide risk would be automatically referred to the GPs. And the GPs were like, well, that's no good because now we're going to have anybody who says stuff like, oh, I just don't know if I can carry on.
Yeah.
In it comes, and they've got to do something about it. And so suddenly they're going to have way too many of these sort of psychiatric cases, which
Yeah.
maybe aren't psychiatric cases. I mean, I
Coherent.
say that occasionally. You know, oh God, I can't go on. Not another, bit of work I've got to do for this stupid course. Like it just is part of the colloquialisms that we might
Yeah.
use. But
Mm.
obviously, it could also be, and so ChatGPT and AI tools find those sorts of patterns very difficult to kind of contextualize against what might be somebody saying it for real versus somebody saying it like me to sort of
Let off steam kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, that all of these things bring up interesting problems, and I suppose that's why it's such a fascinating field, is that
Yeah.
we're sort of starting out on it, and a lot of these concepts and issues haven't been faced before.
No,
Um,
there's a lot to think about, isn't there? So, like you say, it sounds like a great idea. So it chats to the older person and cheers them up a bit and suggests that go and meet up for a knitting circle or something, and then it there's another side to that. So it that's the interesting bit is exploring how safe that is in that context and so on and so forth.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
Jim,
asked Eleanor about her situation. If a practitioner started suggesting things like that, what would happen?
ah,
And she was saying that, sorry, she was saying the
okay.
ChatGPT model was saying that it would encourage them to discuss with a colleague or an appropriate body um, their thoughts and sort of bring things to a head in terms of the scope, knowing where the scope was. Because there was a case in America where some poor kid committed suicide based on the fact he was having this conversation with ChatGPT and it was super eager to please him. So it said, "Yeah, great idea. This is how
Mm,
you do it."
okay.
So there's a court case going on over there. Whether it actually makes the court, I don't know. Often these things get sort of settled out of court, but yeah,
Mm,
so it is a really a reality and that's why the regulations are there. They're not there to stop us having fun and innovating and doing amazing things. They're there to make sure that we thought about the full ramifications of what might go wrong
mm.
if we flippantly go in and say, "Oh, I've got this great idea,"
Yeah.
which is something I'm a bit prone to.
You and me both.
Yeah.
So Jim, if my trusty listener wants to find out more and get in touch with you, how would they do that?
So great question, Gilly. Come along to copractice.ai, so you can type that into any browser, and just that should bring us to our Teachable website, where the course will be housed in the next few days, I hope. And it will be open 1st of January. All the memberships will be up and running. But before that, if you've got any questions, then jim@copractice.ai would be fine. You'll get through to me there. Or because I work with you guys, I'm jim@osteobiz.com as well, and James Ruddick at summertownclinic.co.uk. So any format will get through to me. I'm also on Facebook, of course. Trying to get to as many osteopaths as possible, and it seems to be one of the shortest routes is through Facebook. So I've
Yeah.
gone that way in terms of community and trying to build the community in that space. But I also appreciate there are lots of people who don't like Facebook, so I will be trying to think of ways of connecting with them too. So if there are people on your podcast who don't or listening to your podcast who don't use Facebook, then send me a message because I'd love to know where you are and how you'd like to have this information kind of brought to you. I mean, maybe I do a podcast or something, or I don't know, come back on your podcast, I guess, and
Yeah, yeah, you
let them know
definitely
all
have
about it
that.
again.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Jim. That's been fascinating conversation and lots of things to think about. And I think we both encourage every osteopath to think about bringing AI in gradually, just getting on that bottom rung of the ladder, um,
Yeah,
seeing how it can augment what you're already doing and save you time. And certainly the people I know using it in clinic are finding it really, really helpful. And look, a lot of you tell me that you're dyslexic. This has got to be massively helpful for that
mm,
getting down accurate notes and correct spellings and so on. Actually, I just thought of that. really helpful for that.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean there are aspects of it which mean that basically you're just talking the whole time. You
Yeah.
you even the reading process you can get transcribed back to you if you use the appropriate bit of sort of software on Microsoft Edge, for instance. It'll read back what it's written. So, it can be a two-way dialogue now rather than sitting there staring at your screen trying to type all this stuff in. That's
Yeah.
certainly the place where I found the biggest savings is in terms of time is with Heidi and documenting my notes and just getting more and more proficient with that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean that used to take me forever, and I was one of those who would stay behind because I would have my next patient waiting because I'd almost inevitably had that chat with my patient about their cat or something,
Yeah.
and so leached into the next patient's time, and then I'd be worried about that, and so all my notes build up at the end of the day. I finish at 6, working till 8, getting my notes done and writing my referral letters and trying to remember as much as I can of that particular, rather normal average case in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
I think that's the most important because again, having spoken to so many hundreds of you over the years, that's something that's quite common is people, backing up the note writing until the end of the day. And I know when I've had a full day back to back with clients, if you ask me to write down at 8 o'clock what I spoke about at 9 a.m., I think I'd really struggle
yeah,
because you're in the moment, aren't you? Plus you're diagnosing, you're thinking, you're going, oh, let me try this, let me try that, or I'm saying, let's suggest this, suggest that. And by the end of the day, I think I would struggle to write anything anywhere near
yeah,
accurate.
yeah.
I would have forgotten because stuff just comes to me, and it's out of my mouth, and they go, "Oh, great idea," or whatever, but then
Mm.
it's gone. So I
Yeah,
think the fact that it's writing it in the moment and documenting what's happened and what's been said and what treatment's been done is so much easier, and then you can just
yeah.
run
Review
through
it.
it and say yes, that's accurate, and boom, goodbye, it's done. Next one, and there's none of that build up. It takes away a lot of stress as a result, actually, that you
Yeah, I mean,
haven't.
I go as far as to say that is the most mentally exhausting time of my
Mm,
clinical, like working life, is that
mm,
process of sitting down writing my notes. And it's
mm.
mentally exhausting because you're trying to summarize 30 minutes of fairly intense one-to-one interaction. You're
Yeah.
talking earlier about that therapeutic alliance and how you build it. Well, you
Mm,
don't build it by staring at a screen typing. You can't have that rapport with somebody when you're not looking at them. And that therapeutic alliance, in my opinion, is what leads to really good outcomes in terms of osteopathic care, and something that I really enjoy working with and working on, because I think that's where patients engage with between their narrative and what you're trying to describe to them, and how they then build on your treatment plan is all down to your rapport with that patient, and that's set up very early in that relationship of them walking in.
yeah.
How engaged are you with them? What have you remembered? What haven't you remembered? You know, it gives them the feeling of caring and compassion that is rarely seen in healthcare. If you think about, I had a chat to my GP actually earlier today on the phone. He knew nothing about the last time he saw me, which was about 3 months ago.
Mm,
And it's just like, wow, you haven't even documented it properly because you're having to write this again. And I can hear him typing in the background. You hear the keys type, type, type on the keyboard, and you're like, oh, there's I am so much more advanced than him. I
yeah.
can say,
Yeah.
in that everything is transcribed, and even if it doesn't pick up the things that I want, it's still in that transcription usually, so I can go back and find those things if I wanted to, or I can vary the output on Heidi, and that's one of the kind of skills of using Heidi is understanding how the output is created. So I think some people find that difficult, whereas you can again iterate with ID. It's got this personalization thing that I mentioned earlier, and it'll become better and better the more you use it. There's also a paid option, which I'm not part of yet, but I could see the benefits of it, and I keep thinking, oh,
Oh,
maybe I
another
should.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
but yes,
actually, on another note, if you are cross-referring within the practice, again, you're going to have really thorough notes being handed across, aren't you? Or you can see what standard of notes your associates are writing,
Yeah,
and
completely.
whether they need any assistance with how they document stuff.
Yeah, and we're rolling all this out to our practitioners at the moment to make sure that we're all on board with the same process, so that they're saving time too. And that's another sort of journey that I'm going on, is creating a sort of more AI assisted clinic, or augmented clinic, and seeing how each of the processes that go on around the clinic, and thanks to you and the Osteobiz team, I've got a much clearer idea of those processes. I can begin to use AI in certain processes to make them much more efficient. So it doesn't take my practice manager 2.5 days to write the email about the end of the week. Now she can just do it, say, read my, copy and paste the things she's been talking about in her messages to the reception, and it will produce a summary for her. And it's like, oh, I didn't know it could do that. It's like, well, there you go. Save you hours of your time trying to scroll through all of this stuff, and instead it's just there for you. So yes, sorry, I'm back to the original thing, which is how useful AI is, and things like documentation is its lowest rung and probably the most useful part of AI. So if anyone's listening and wants to start with AI, that's the place to start. Right at the bottom there, and thinking about how AI can help you with your documentation, your information that you put into it, and just reorganizing and structuring that. Be that your notes, as long as they're anonymized, or something simple like drafting an email for you back to a patient that's sounding a bit stroppy. It could do those things brilliantly.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. I don't want to let you go, Jim. I could talk about this all day, but no doubt you've got patients waiting for you.
Yeah, they do get in the way.
Yeah.
When Jimbot 2000 comes out, I'll let you know.
I'm looking forward to that. Take him for a coffee.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, no, he's going to be in there. I'm going to be doing the fun things.
He's going to be doing the treatment. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jim, and we'll catch up again very soon.
Yeah, thanks, Gilly. Nice speaking to you.
Thanks for listening to the Osteo Business Podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all Gilly's channels, which can be found in the show notes. Gilly's back soon with more tips, ideas, and strategies to build your thriving practice.